able to do. So the first slide, I'm going to give you 3 important formulas that we will be using for LSU. Distance formula for finding the distance between 2 ordered pairs. Midpoint formula for finding the midpoint. And then the third one is somewhat unrelated, the Pythagorean theorem. So I'm going to put these up. These are the ones we're going to be using today, so I'll give you guys some time to jot those down. Make sure you write down your formulas correctly. So the first 2, the distance and the midpoint, those require 2 ordered pairs. So the x1, y1 is the first order pair, x2, y2 is the second ordered pair. Pythagorean theorem, where do you see that?
Triangles.
In a triangle. More specifically, what kind of triangle? A right triangle. So Pythagorean theorem does require a right triangle. Sides A and B are the sides of the triangle. It doesn't matter which is which, so those are the legs, they're called. It's the 2 pieces that touch the right angle. And C has to be the hypotenuse, because that is always the longest side, the one opposite the right angle. Alright, when we use distance or Pythagorean theorem, a lot of times we'll end up with square roots. I don't want approximations, I want the exact radical form. So if you get the square root of 8, I don't want you to type that in your calculator and tell me it's, what, 2 point something. I want you to break it down and say 2 radical 2. So we're always going to keep our answer in exact form, so with radicals, but just as reduced as possible. So if I want to find the distance between these points, so just like if you're doing slope or anything else, this is just your x in the first, your y in the first, x in the second, y in the second. So the distance formula is the square root, this is what you just wrote down, x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. So if we plug in our numbers, x2 is 5 minus 3 squared, y2 is 4 minus negative 4 squared. So we get 4 plus 64, so the square root of 68. Then we are trying to reduce that if at all possible. So is there a perfect square that goes into 68? Four and 17. So the square root of 4 is 2. So 2 radical 17. Is that okay? Next one. A right triangle. So right triangle has a hypotenuse of 13. Where does the hypotenuse go? That's our C. It's opposite the right angle. One leg of length 12. What's the length of the remaining? Okay, so anytime we have a right triangle, we're looking at Pythagorean theorem, a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Really, the only important thing here is that the 13 goes in for c. It doesn't matter for a and b. I would have a squared. I'm going to do my b as 12. So then subtract over the 144. Okay, and then how would you solve that? Square root. Now, in general, anytime we add a square root, we have to put a plus and minus with it. Would we need both the plus and minus here?
No,
Why?
because you can't have a negative length.
Right. B or A represents the length of a side in a triangle. A length of a side would always be positive. So you're just going to get one answer. So the other leg is 5. If we had units given in the problem, we would use those. Thank you. Is that okay? So, midpoint. You're finding the middle. You don't have to draw a picture here, but just to illustrate what we're doing, -5, 5 is this point over here. And then we have 3, 1, which is right there. So that is a line segment, and we're trying to find the middle of this. Now my picture is obviously not drawn to scale, so I can't just use my picture to find that middle. We need an exact. So basically you need the middle of the x's and the middle of the y's. So we're essentially just averaging. Average the x, average the y. So this is like your x1 and y1, x2 and y2. So our midpoint, the formula is x1 plus x2 divided by 2, y1 plus y2 divided by 2. And it's still an ordered pair because it's a point on the line. So -5 plus 3 divided by 2, and 5 plus 1 divided by 2. So -5 plus 3 is -2, -2 divided by 2 is -1. 5 plus 1 is 6, 6 divided by 2 is 3. And if we look, that seems about like the middle of that segment. Still hasn't paid you, has he? I don't think you're ever going to see your money.
I don't know.
Okay. This question is a bit different. I gave you the midpoint and one of the two endpoints. We need the second one. And there's really two different approaches for this. There's like the algebraic way, and then there's kind of a reasoning way. So I'm going to show you both options, and then you guys can tell me what you like. Okay? So algebraic. one of the endpoints is 8, negative 20. So the other one I don't know, that's just x, y. So think about what we do. To find the midpoint, you take your x1 plus x2 divided by 2. We do the y1 plus the y2 divided by 2. Alright, so this first one, that gives me the x value of the midpoint. What is the x value of the midpoint? 4. The second one, this is giving me the y value of the midpoint. So the y of the midpoint is negative 4. And so then we just have two equations to solve. So if you're solving the first one, to get rid of the divided by 2, we could say times 2. So I get x plus 8 equals 8. Subtract over my 8, and x is 0. So in my ordered pair, the x is 0. So to find the y, same thing, multiply the 2. We get y plus negative 20 equals negative 8. Add over the 20. You get positive 12. So the midpoint is 0, 12. Endpoint, sorry. We had the midpoint. We're finding the midpoint. Alright, so that's the algebraic way. Do you guys all understand how I got that one? So then, the other option, I'm just going to erase this and show you the other way. So if we have I'm not even going to draw this to scale, I'm just kind of drawing myself a picture. Okay, my first endpoint was 8, negative 20. The middle was 4, negative 4. And I have to figure out what this end is. So we can look for a pattern. So if you're starting at 8, what do you have to add or subtract to get to 4? Okay, so we subtracted 4. So to get to the other one, we just do that again. We subtract 4. So 4 minus 4 is 0. Okay, for the negative 20. To get from negative 20 to negative 4, what would we do? So to get to the end, we do it again. If you add 16, negative 4 plus 16, 12. And isn't that what we had before? So which method do you guys prefer? You like the algebraic? There's always, this way is faster, but some people just really like the algebraic, setting up the equations. It's totally your choice. I do not care. So why don't you guys try one? Okay. I'll do both ways, just so you're covered no matter which one you chose. This is the midpoint. This is my endpoint. So the other one would be xy. So, find the midpoint, you add the x's, divide by 2, and equal the x value of the midpoint, which was 8. So if I solve that, multiply the 2 over. So x minus 6 equals 16. Add the 16, so x is 22. And then my y's. Add your y's, so y plus 12 over 2 equals the y value of the midpoint, which is negative 2. Multiply by 2, so y plus 12 equals negative 4. Subtract the 12, so y is negative 16. So 22 negative 16. If you did it by reasoning, just make sure you don't mix up the endpoint and the midpoint. Okay, the endpoint was negative 6, 12. The midpoint was 8, negative 2. And we're trying to find this one. So to find my x, negative 6, what would we have to add or subtract to turn that into 8? 14.
It's Monday.
It is Tuesday. So then we add 14 again, so 8 plus 14 is 22. Alright. So my y, if I'm at 12, to get to negative 2, we subtract 14. So we do it again, negative 2 minus 14 is negative 16. So same answer, both methods. Alright. Let's do, I'm going to put a couple problems up here for you guys to try. Up. How do we find our distance? x2 minus x1, so negative 7 minus negative 3 squared, plus y2, which is 10, minus y1, which is 4 squared. So negative 7 plus 3 would be negative 4. Negative 4 squared is 16. 10 minus 4 is 6. Squared is 36. So we get the square root of 52. And then we have to break that down. Any perfect square is going to 52. That would be 4 and 13. So 2 radical 13. Midpoint ordered pair, so x1 plus x2 divided by 2, y1 plus y2 divided by 2. So we get negative 10 over 2, or negative 5. 14 over 2 is 7. Those two okay? Last one, a little bit harder. There's actually two different ways of finding c here. What's one option? You could do distance formula. C would be this hypotenuse. So you could get those two ordered pairs and do the distance formula. We could also do Pythagorean theorem, because since this is just a vertical line, can you tell me how long that line is? 1, 2, 3, because it goes from negative 2 to 1. How long is this one? It goes from 1 to 4, so it's 3 units long.
Well, I did everything wrong.
And I got that. The only reason I can just count how long those are is because it's vertical and horizontal. So I can just count if I'm at this one, I have to go up 1, 2, 3 units. If I'm here, I go over 1, 2, 3. So then you could do Pythagorean theorem, a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Square root, how would you break down an 18?
3, 9 and 2.
So 3 radical 2. Same thing you would have gotten if you did Pythagorean or distance formula for those 2 points. All right, is all this okay? There is a short Math Excel assignment open.